some of the leveling. You have, so we have English 9, we have English 9 AR, we have English 9 Global Commerce, MST, GE, Fine Arts, we have English 9 AR Global Commerce, you know, so now you've taken what could be English 9 and have 1,000 or well 900 students in it, to where you now have 8 variations of that, which each lend itself to an inefficiency because you're breaking that down into smaller groups. So, you know, those are discussions, good, bad, or indifferent, when you're talking about budget. Those are programmatic value judgments you have to make. Is the program, are you sacrificing program versus cost? You know, I'm not the instructional person to address that. My colleagues, some of the coordinators would argue that by having R and AR, there's a value in having house-specific versions of AR and R. There's a value, smaller cohort of kids, followed more closely by their house team, better interaction, familiarity with the teacher, the learning styles. There's a lot of educational justification for that. The question is, can you afford it?
Are you prepared to back out 9th graders if that decision was made? Is that
What's that?
Are you prepared to back out 9th graders from the high school if that was a decision that was made?
See, that's not something I think I could certainly answer as a...
No, I mean, if the decision was made, if the decision was made, are you prepared to, you know...
The one nice thing about the way we've done this, I see what you mean, yes, there is agility in sorting and backing out in many different ways. Because it's all a big database, you can write very sophisticated queries. I've got an expert over here that says, okay, give me all the 9th graders who are in global commerce. Boom. Give me all the 9th graders who are in global commerce taking English 9. I mean, so you've got all those, you have all that flexibility. And we do have some utilities within the software to say, and do something else with them. So take all the 9th graders who are in global commerce, I'd like to use something. Take all the female, left-handed, blue-eyed, you know, 9th graders out of this program and put them over here. And you can do that with some keystrokes. So to answer your question, at this point in the process, it is still a very agile process. However, this...
You do know that 8th graders are getting now in the mail their proposed schedules for 9th grade.
Should never get, not proposed schedules. They're probably getting their recommended course requests. What they're suggested to make it to this list. Because to his point...
What they're telling them is, this is your class schedule for 9th grade.
Well, I want to be careful because...
I think it's course class list.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what they're telling them is, this is your classes for 9th grade.
That's not what my son's guidance counselor told me.
Okay?
It's their class,
It's
but
your
not the
requested,
schedule. It's two different.
But pre-IB and AR may be combined, things like that. They at least my son's guidance counselor made it clear that this is your request, but some of these may be combined and it might not be listed that way.
And again, you stop me when I've gone to, because I can talk about scheduling. So we do have to talk about the 2010-11 schedule is made up of current 8th through 11th graders. So it is good to make a designation that our counselors are working from 8th grade to 11th grade right now for our future 9th through 12th graders. And yes, at this point, based on teacher recommendation, based on program interest, they are starting to develop that list of requests that make the most sense to make it to this list. So this list, and when you see 9 through 12, we talk about what's called the next demographic year. These are actually 8th through 11th graders that make it through this list. Okay, so something else.
Not getting up for any reason.
So here's the big challenge. There's a very short window of time that you then take a look at this and see where the requests are before you have to then try to get to what we call running a conflict matrix to say, okay, so here's this population of students who've requested courses, which courses are in conflict with each other, and how we then will take that information and then get to a master schedule. Everybody is pretty much aware that our schedule is pretty complicated. 8 days in rotation, 8 periods in a day, 3 lunches. A student needs 6 out of 8. A full class means 6 out of 8 days. And we do have half-year courses, which meet 6 out of 8 days half the year. We have full-year courses that meet alternate days, so they're still worth 0.5, but they meet 3 out of 8, but they meet the whole year. We have half-year classes that meet all, which means they meet 3 out of 8, but half the year, they're worth 0.25. An example of that would be phys ed is a 0.25 credit per half semester. They meet 3 out of 8 days in a rotation. And so what gets complicated is all those have to fit together. Whether it's health in 9th or 10th grade, which is a half-year course, we have some versions of health that meet half-year, 6 out of 8, and we have the same course but a different section that meets 3 out of 8 but the whole year. In both scenarios, they're worth 0.5. So what then happens is the master schedule is built. Once the master schedule is built and the scheduler runs, and we continually run it to try to find out where all of the constraints are diminishing our efficiency, that process starts, and until that process is finished, you cannot produce the schedule that a student will see on September 8th. And what we generally do is we work that schedule from, in a good year, when all the information about these programmatic decisions has been made in March or April, we start running the schedule in April, May, right up until about mid-August. Think about some other factors that you have. You have failures. So at the end of June, you have students who had already put their course request in January with what they thought they were going to take next year, but that has to be modified based on the fact that they were unsuccessful academically. So a counselor has to sit with them and say, okay, there's 2 scenarios. Either you take the same course next year, or you perhaps are enrolled in summer school. And what does that look like? Well, if you're not going to go to summer school, then we take that course request that you put in January, which is no longer valid, and we update it. If you're going to summer school, we take that, we leave that request that you had, and we assume that you're going to be successful in summer school. And then mid-August, when our schedule is almost finished, we have to yet again count for those students who were unsuccessful in a particular course in summer school and modify their courses. Once that's all taken place, we do something called lock the schedule. The schedule will no longer be changed by the algorithm of the computer. And then it's the masterful job of our wonderful counselors who continue to resolve individual conflicts. You've got an IB student, has 8 courses in their schedule and has requested, he wants to take 9 courses. Something has to be discussed. You can have economics IB, or you can have psychology IB. What is it? You know, so those things have to happen sometimes on a more granular basis. And so, with that said, yes.
What's the average cost of summer school? I know it depends on how many students there are. But what is the average cost of summer school?
I don't have the answer. I'll have to find that for you. I don't know what the average class size is.
Sorry.
Can I just point out that if you just said what you just said to a teacher or administrator in the mid-60s, they would look at you like they had 2 heads. I mean, I remember having a choice of maybe advanced biology, maybe, physics instead of chemistry, and we still managed to make it, but that's just an old fart comment. I agree. But this looks like this looks like the Schenectady Community College curriculum as opposed to
it is
our old high school.
But it feels a little problematic in that Rich has asked a question about the 9th graders next year. I asked a question about the scholarship program next year. Putting it all in. And the budgetary process starts next Wednesday. How? That's another way to put it. Financially, wouldn't this already be to your folks to give some of analysis as to what this cost might be? I mean, I just, well, I remember asking this question over a month ago. What happens when you've only got 5 or 6 weeks left before the budget process? Now you're down to next week it's starting. And Rich has asked the question I've asked. I still don't understand how you're going to get to this point